Good morning, everybody. You were listening to Tiger Claw Radio episode 177. Thank you so much for joining me. Let's talk about some video games. Coming up this week, Audacity has a new version. You podcasters might want to get in on this. We're going to talk about some MS-DOS commands. I got with the little bit of gaming time I was able to work in this past week, I managed to get into MS-DOS. There was a Linux game jam over the weekend. I'd like to talk briefly about the Linux game jam. How to build your own media center with OpenELEC. And other discussions. Guaranteed to use my mouth hole to make words. Hope you guys are having a good morning. We're going to kick things off with some chip music. This is a song called The Bell from Himsy Pimsy. And it's recently uploaded. This was put up on chipmusic.org just yesterday afternoon, and they've got no feedback at all yet. So let's put on our critical thinking caps, listen closely, and we'll see if we can give them some well wishing. You guys are listening to Tiger Claw Radio. We'll see you in a minute. Ladies and gentlemen, last night I reached 100 hours in Anarchy Arcade on Steam. I mean, you guys know what game that is. That's the one where it's a Source engine kind of thing. and you can lay out arcade machines, and then you click on the arcade machines, then they launch your other Steam games. So there's a piece of irony here. The game used for launching other games now has more time in it than most of my games. So here's an idea. Early on in Tiger Claw TV history, we used to have little events where we would all sort of get together and play a specific game. We did it with Doom. We did it with a big one was Team Fortress Classic. And the difference between that and just the normal crew getting together on a Friday night to play games is when we did it, people would come out of the woodwork who we only saw once in a while. So I'd like to do this again for Unreal Tournament. This is Unreal Tournament 99, which still has populated servers. It's a lot of fun to play, and it runs on just about anything. Even when this game came out, you could run it on games that had no 3D card or whatever. It didn't look great, but it ran pretty smoothly. So, my thought is this. If you would like to make this happen, number one, get in on the Dead Multiplayer Society Steam group, which I believe most of you are. But if you're not, I'll put a link there. Dead Multi Society. And the next thing you need to do is install a copy of Unreal Tournament, UT99, Game of the Year Edition. Now, it's available on GOG.com, and it's available on Steam, and I believe it's also available on Gamersgate. Or Gamergate? Gamersgate. Gamersgate is the one that's the store. So you can go get yourself a copy if you don't have it already. I think most of you guys have it, but we will reconvene, I think probably sometime this week. I'll post an event on Dead Multi Society. And let's get some Unreal Tournament going. That is a really awesome game. I would like to play it again. Consider supporting TCR on Patreon and get a copy of the MP3 a couple of days early. The link will be in the description. Alright, we're going to do this part backwards from how I normally do it. Rather than dig into some of the stories I have, some of the articles I've got saved, let's go ahead and do the Vancast first. It's the Vancast! Man, I got to imagine these things are so much better when I do them in the afternoon instead of early in the morning like I did last week. What's going on, everybody? It is Monday. It is 3:43 in the afternoon, and I'm driving home. Feeling good. Got my day of work in, ready to go home and take care of my family. Let's see here. Just before I left for work this morning, I wake up early so that I can have a little time on the computer and get things straight. Play a game if I can, update the website, do whatnot. Running TCR, that's always been the time where I do my upload. That's why Monday morning is a great time. I wake up, get the update in, and it's all set before I head off to work. Now that I'm on YouTube, I can do scheduled release. It's all set, a day in advance. So Monday morning, I actually have to do what I feel like. So this morning I started messing around with MS-DOS, which was great. Haven't been back into MS-DOS in a little while. I open up DOSBox and run by running a program now and then, but I usually do that by drag and dropping an executable file from Windows, and if you just drop it right over top of the shortcut, it'll open up directly. And that's not what I did this morning. This morning I opened up MS-DOS straight, and I was toying with the command prompt. I made a video about this, so it's my sincere hope when you're listening to this, you're not getting all this a second time, but it felt good. It was good stuff. Excuse me. I went out on the internet and grabbed a few programs, and basically just had a quick reminder that MS-DOS is an amazing program, more or less. Specifically, I didn't dive into any games, but I was looking for a replacement for MenuWorks. When I was a kid, before we had Windows, I've made a video about this a while back, so you can see all of that, but my dad had a program called MenuWorks, which I'm trying to remember. I believe this was before he was into Windows. We got into Windows with version 3.1. That's as far back with Windows as I go. Before that, it was MS-DOS, and then he had an MS-DOS shell that sat on top of it. And when I'd go back to look at what he was doing, he was either running MenuWorks or directly in DOS. He did a lot directly with the command line. And I wish I could remember all of the tools he would use on top of DOS, because he had a file tree program that he would use to navigate the files, but whatever program that is lost in the sands of time. So So anyway, that's all neither here nor there. I had some time to just kick open the command prompt and toy around, which was a lot of fun. And I shot a video that I'm hoping will be up very soon, and I'm kind of itching to get home to play with it, because it was a good time indeed. As far as games are concerned, whenever I go back to MS-DOS like this, there's usually a couple of old standbys that I look at, and one of those is Castle Wolfenstein. So typing in the command prompt and then playing Castle Wolfenstein go hand in hand. Another big thing I want to do is I want to do some work in QBasic. I think that'd be a cool video to do. Just do some basic programming, a hello world, do a basic if then else statement. Just type some simple console programs in QBasic. If you ran MS-DOS natively back in those days, like say DOS 6, something like that, there were certain programs built into the shell that just ran. And there was, I believe QBasic was one of those, if I'm not mistaken. Most prominently, and I talked about this in the video I shot as well, there was an editor that was built into MS-DOS. And this editor was derived from QBasic, but it was just a text editor. So it was built into the shell, so you could, if you typed the right command, you could just open text documents directly into the shell and then go in and edit them. And that was the big problem I faced this morning. I like I mentioned, I downloaded a few new programs, and I was just surfing around, checking out what we could find, looking at programs which were created dates back in 1993, around that era, which feels really late to me, but anyway, it was a good time. It was a good time, and I could tell that playing in DOS, I'm going to have to get a few solid utilities to get up and running. Maybe I'll go back and re-download WordStar 4, which for whatever reason became my most watched video on YouTube, is, hey everybody, let's look at WordStar 4. I found another video about WordStar 4. Somebody made a video basically saying George R.R. Martin's WordStar 4. And basically the way the story goes is the guy who wrote the Game of Thrones books did them all in this old MS-DOS program. And he said that on an interview on Conan O'Brien. And that was one of the things that got me to make my video. And then somebody made this other video very similar to it, but the thing was, his was running on like a Tandy or something, or like a Texas Instruments computer, natively, like actual hardware with camera on screen footage. So it was really interesting to see. I get a big kick out of all that stuff, especially since I don't really have any hardware that old myself. Hang on a second. I'm driving by some cops. Okay. Everything's good there. So that's it. So that was my morning. And I think what I find most interesting about that is my interest in DOS right now has very little to do with games. I want to dig into some old utilities. I think the last time I had an interest in DOS, I even managed to get my hands on a C++ compiler, which was great because I took C++ in college. But I did it in like a modern IDE. So I'm not even sure if I could mess with those tools. That was one thing that was different in my education. Whenever I dealt with Linux or Unix, they wanted us to deal with old as dirt stuff. We did our Unix shell programming directly in PuTTY, and we used the Vi editor. And if you're not familiar with what the Vi editor is, it's built into Unix. It's old and it's cumbersome and it's crazy, and you hit backspace and it doesn't go backspace. It just adds extra junk characters. It's weird. Vi editor is very weird. So we did our Unix programming in Vi. And whereas when we did our programming, when I took Java, all our Java we did in NetBeans, which is a free IDE that you can go download right now, and is filled with options and special tools you can use to debug. I mean, you can
you can write a program in NetBeans, and it'll tell you if you have an infinite loop. It'll tell you if you're missing a bracket. It's great. Eclipse is another program like that. Eclipse, I think, has versions for all sorts of languages. But we didn't get any of that for Unix, man. So diving back into C++ that far back, I don't know. It was different. I mean, if you download a DOS program, it usually has one executable, or maybe like an executable and then a setup executable, and then maybe a batch file. It's easily a couple of things, and you can usually tell, okay, that's what I run to run the thing. But this was like the old C++ tool I had. It was a collection of tools. It had like 10 executables, and they all had truncated names crunched together into 6 characters, so I didn't know what was what or what to do. I get the feeling you had to write your program directly into a text editor without any sort of formatting or assistance, and then just save it. Like, instead of saving as .txt, you would save it as CPP or whatever, and then compile it that way, which is absolutely plausible, but I don't know, I couldn't do it. I'm not good enough with C++. I think that kind of stuff would make for an interesting couple of videos. I know it's really hard programming and hard technology subject, which isn't my strongest suite, my strongest point, but the hard technology videos I've made in the past, the very precious few of them I've done, have done very well, and pretty well received and widely viewed. And it's also something I enjoy. It's nice to see a subject where widely appreciated and actually enjoyable to make coincide into a single topic, as opposed to, well, I hate making this, but if I make it, I'll get attention, or, I love making this, but if I make it, no one will watch it, which is equally as frustrating. So who knows? I'll mess with that a little bit. In terms of video games, goodness, I just need some time to play some games, Give me an evening to play Steam games, play some Nintendo games. I'm going to order a reproduction cart coming up soon. I'm sure the rest of this episode you'll hear me talking about that quite a bit. But tonight, when I get home from Cub Scouts with my kid, I'm going to be ordering a reproduction cart for a Contra game that Sendu pointed out for me, and that'll be a lot of fun. But all right, that's it for the Vancast. A little rambling, so let's try and keep it shorter than last week. I think last week it ran 15 minutes. This week it's 10. Okay, it's shorter, but not that much shorter. All right, guys, let's go back to Panzer Studios. I'll see you there.
And we are back in Panzer Studios. Nice and comfortable. So there was a Linux game jam over this past weekend, which ended today. It lasted from Thursday to Monday, giving users an extra day to come up with something. Create a game. Had to have a Linux build, a native Linux build, something that didn't run in Wine. And as far as I know, this is the first of its kind, as far as I know. The guy who ran it is somebody on YouTube known as the Linux Gamer. This is a guy I've come across quite a bit. If you've ever done any searching for Linux stuff, he's one of the prominent Linux related gaming video maker people. It's pretty much him, and Nixie Pixel used to do a lot of those types of videos as well. But the Linux Gamer created this game jam, and I'm reading the page now, and it feels more like a Ludum Dare kind of feel. We're not talking about harsh competition in the world of speedy software creation. This is not about beating out the other, the other developers. Come on, man. Come on. I was trying to paste the link in. There we go. Google Docs will not allow me to right-click and hit paste. Absolutely must hit Control-V. It's the only acceptable way to paste in a link. Very strange. Anyway, feels very much like a Ludum Dare kind of thing, meaning the Ludum Dare distinguished itself as a game jam, saying this is not the jam that people play or that people get involved in because they want to create the awesome software. The Ludum Dare is a jam that people get involved with so they can feel grassroots community programming. There's a lot of people playing each other's builds, putting up devlogs. If you want to taste development in a friendly environment during a fun, cool event, that's what the Ludum Dare is. This looks like that, with a couple exceptions. The fact that it's Linux related, and also I don't see the theme restriction that Ludum Dare has. Your game's art, assets, and program must be made within the said time frame. You must be submitted to this page. You must have a Linux build. Your game must use Godot, Unity, Love 2D, any others. Your game can use those or your own custom build engine. You get exactly 1 bonus point if your game is open source. Side note: bonus points are meaningless. Make sure your submissions has any dependencies listed on the page. So there's no, it's not like the Ludum Dare is specifically like, okay, they release a lot, like as soon as the jam opens, it's like, okay, your game has to be related to using enemies as a weapon. That way you can't start early. The reason we have Cannibalt was a Ludum Dare game. The dare was make a game that uses only one button to play. I know I've gone over all that on the air in days past, but I wished I had more time to play some of these games. Some of them look like things I would generally click on. I will keep this in my notes after this week. Hopefully, I'll have a chance to play something from it, rather. But I will include the Linux Game Jam in the show notes. If there's any Linux users out there, I don't think I have any Linux users listening to TCR yet, but any Linux users out there, you can check it out at the very, very least. Whenever one of these things happens, a game jam, there's always some cool freeware to come out of it. It's like a bunch of freeware being released all at once, and I think it's always fun. So that's that. That's the Linux Game Jam. Next in the notes is Audacity. Audacity's got a new version out, and if you'll bear with me while I open the link. Okay, so I read through the article, and the link to the article is listed in the show notes, so you can go read through it. And it's a little bit here, a little bit there, but I know a lot of the people who listen to this are podcasters like myself, so this is something we should all be up on. First and foremost, they added more support for Windows 10, so if you're one of those unfortunate souls who's on the latest version of Windows, you should have a more stable build. They've also added a new effect. In the effects drop-down, there's now a distortion effect, which should be cool. Apart from that, they've also, I haven't seen this myself because I haven't downloaded it yet, but the pitch change and tempo change tools, they have a few more options than they used to. So if you like, it's funny, those just sound more like options I use when I'm toying with Audacity with my kids and we're just having fun, rather than actual podcast production. But it doesn't matter. That's still awesome. Audacity is free software. You know what I'm saying? So they add a little bit here, a little bit there. It's great. It's the program evolves. And if I may, Audacity in particular is a program that's evolved very, very slowly. In the time TCR has been on the air, Audacity has not changed much at all. And I gotta say, maybe that's for the better. It's been the old standby. It's marvelous program. They do a great job, and version 2.1.3 is now out. I recommend everybody getting a hold of it, just cause. Moving on, okay, let's talk about this MS-DOS thing. I think this started with just one morning. There was one particular morning where I had an awesome time playing with MS-DOS, and thus it became the subject of the Vancast. So I looked up an article of DOS commands, which I'm looking at now. And in this thing, like I mentioned in the Vancast, I see a lot of stuff that doesn't work in DOSBox. Let's see, mem. The mem command shows information about used in free memory areas and programs that are currently loaded into memory in the DOS subsystem. Let's see what else we have. Smart drive. Yeah, you know what? I did this in the Vancast. I'm not going to go over this again. But if you have any interest if you use Windows, like Windows 10, 8, or 7, then you have no need for DOS commands because you don't have DOS. You know what? Tim Fisher, updated March 13th, 2017 of LifeWire. Shut up, because you're dumb. That's written in the article. You're dumb, Tim Fisher of LifeWire. You do need DOS commands, because we've got DOSBox, and that's something. Goodness, even on Linux we have DOSBox. Yeah, so FreeDOS, a more native version of DOSBox. I downloaded FreeDOS once, and the thing about FreeDOS versus, say, Linux is there's no live boot. See, Linux you can put on a USB drive, and you can go into your BIOS on your computer and have it boot from the USB drive, and you can take, the operating system for a spin, whatever particular brand of Linux you're looking at, and you can try out the buttons, you can see where things go, you can see if you like it, get a little taste. That's kind of, these days, it's an integral part of Linux. A lot of the Linux YouTube channels you see, they open up, they do this in virtual computer spaces, right? Using like the Oracle VirtualBox, and they create, but that's an important part, being able to use the operating system without wiping out your system. That doesn't seem to be the case with FreeDOS, which is a problem, because I would really like to add FreeDOS to my grub menu. So I think if I open up a partition tool, I should be able to create a new partition and then install FreeDOS to that, and that should work. I don't see any reason why that shouldn't work. But how much space should I put on an MS-DOS partition? You probably shouldn't need a lot, right? 1 gig ought to do it. 1 gig in an MS-DOS partition, that's like a million billion. That's like all the space in the world, right? I remember my dad got a new computer in 1990, late 95, early 96. It was like towards the end for my dad. And it had 2 gigs of hard drive space on it. And at the time, when we were still like by and large porting in programs by diskette, I couldn't imagine anything that big, right? How are you ever going to fill 2 gigs? So, I don't know. Love to do that. All right, let's move on. I feel like I'm covering ground I've covered already. I once, without realizing it, got onto a Skype call with my pals and completely recited an entire podcast. That's the way Alex Swingle tells the story. So I'm always on guard for ever doing that again. All right, so what's left? How to build your own media center with OpenELEC. Let's talk about AliExpress. This is something that Sendu brought to my attention after the last podcast. Now, bear with me. I'm going to get this opened up, and I've only got a couple minutes to go over it. So AliExpress is a little website, kind of like eBay, and I looked at this with Swingle. I looked at it with Sendu. Looks like eBay. Imagine eBay with the worst search engine you could imagine. But it appears that you can buy repros at a fairly cheap price. Now, the particular link that I was sent was for Contra: Revenge of the Red Falcon, which is one that I mentioned, I believe, even as recently as last week. I can see this here, this particular cart, $15.80. I talked about this right at the end of the Vancast. $16. All right, free shipping in the United States for an NES reproduction cart. That's amazing. As far as I'm concerned, fair market value for an NES reproduction card is $30. If you're getting $30 for a repro cart, you're doing all right. This is not a deal, but you're doing okay. But the more I click around on this site, the more I see reproduction cards like this. And I talked about this with Swingle, and he said, "Well, what was it, Alex?" You said it was like Chinese manufacturers. So this is where like people get reproduction cards. People buy these and then take them over to YouTube, or not YouTube, eBay, and then just flip them. And that's where those high dollar repros on eBay come from. Something like that. It's I've never seen anything like this. It's one of those things where like it blew my mind when I saw it, but at the same time, I also had my guard up. For example, right now I'm taking a look at Chrono Trigger USA version, 16-bit big gray card for the NTSC game player. This is listed for $7.75, free shipping to the United States via ePacket. Okay, Chrono Trigger, boys and girls, Chrono Trigger. Not even $10. Okay, so let's start at the beginning. There's no way that's not a reproduction card. You know what I'm saying? Sounds legit. But then that's Chrono Trigger native on the Super Nintendo. I gotta say, I don't really give a wet fart in the Mississippi if it's a repro. That's Chrono Trigger. That's a game that costs money. That costs a lot of money, and it's actually like a good game. You know, it's pretty fun little game. Versus say like a terrible game that just costs a lot, or a game that I'm not terrible, but I'll say this: there's a lot of games that cost a lot of money that I'm not particularly interested in. Not terrible per se, just didn't strike a chord with me. I never got into Earthbound, and it's okay if you get angry hearing that. Earthbound just never hit the mark for me. I don't know, man. It just wasn't my thing. Couldn't get into it. Alright, so let's take a look at this. I just clicked into 150 in one, no save version, 60-pin game card for 8-bit game player. Clearly a FAMI card. However, list price $4.99. $4.99 for a bootleg multi-card for the FAMI. You know what? I think I might test the site with this $4.99 cart. Let's just see if this makes it to my house. Let's see if this gets it here. Taking a look at what's on this Famicom multi-card. I'll start with this. They have the names of the games printed prominently, so there's that. That's positive. Starts with Rockman 1 through 6. We got the Turtles games, Mario games, Adventure Island, some Donkey Kong, some Goonies. Do I need this? No, I don't. Is it a good idea to buy this? No, probably not. Should I do it? Yeah, probably. I'll probably do it anyway. Realistically, no. This is a waste of money. I should be buying reproduction cards for single games that mean something to me, or I should buy a Raspberry Pi again. Get a new Raspberry Pi, something that can stay on 24 hours a day, and that way I can turn on my TV and it's right there and it's on. That's what I should spend the money on. But it's so cool. It's just so cool. I kind of want to have it anyway. I'm going to put a link to this AliExpress site. The search engine is garbage. Use really broad stroke search terms, NES, SNES, that sort of thing. If you type something that has any kind of meat to it, you're probably going to get no search results. But give it your best shot, because I'm seeing some fun things. On package day from AliExpress is probably a very fun day. These look like they'd be really cool to mess around with. Especially you video makers out there, you content creators on the YouTubans. You got some good videos in the works here. So I would say check it out. Let me jump back to my show notes. I believe that's everything, just as well, because I got to go to work. Okay. Okay, there's a couple more little things I'm gonna go over when we come back, and then we'll do the fail bag. Let's do another chip tune. This is called The Bell from Himsy Plimsy. Is that right? No, that's the one I played last time. Jeez, I almost played the same song again. It's early. This is called Slum VRC6. It was put up on March 9th, so it's still pretty recent song. And it's by Mezzanine Stairs and Mezzanine Rights. Slum from the World's End Chapter 1 soundtrack, arranged in FamiTracker. FTM source provided. Now this is different. This submission is licensed under copyright, all rights reserved. So no, I ain't playing this garbage. I think this is the only one like this I've seen. Hang on, let's go back to Himsy Plimsy's track. Okay, so I'm just discovering something about chipmusic.org that sets it apart from 8-Bit Collective. The 8-Bit Collective, which closed down a good while ago, if you wanted to upload something, there was a checkbox that required you to release the track under the Creative Commons site. So we had commercial artists put tracks up there, and when they did that, those songs got released. And I think the prime example was Anime Noguchi released like a slight edit of one of their tracks. They were big on the APC, so anything they put up there, it's Creative Commons, as long as you have that particular version of the track. This song, Slum VRC6, copyright, all rights reserved. It's a copyrighted track. I mean, I guess so are Creative Commons, to a degree, but I can't play this on YouTube. I can't have them come after me. I don't know. Can't do it. Don't know what I'm gonna play. I don't know. I'll have to figure something out. I'm gonna play something. When we come back, I'll tell you all about what it is, and we'll just do the best we can. All right, guys, hang in there. I know I am. You're listening to Tiger Claw Radio. song's called Commodorable, and it's by, who did this? Jar. Contributing artist, Jar. Commodorable. Go get yourself a copy of the MP3. I was putting together a chiptune special just because I wanted to do some more. I wanted to have a special in my pocket. So I spent some time and I listened to some tracks, and I plucked out, I don't know how long this is, maybe 45 minutes of music. I usually like shoot for an hour with that sort of thing, and then I hit the mark like by a long shot. Probably about 45 minutes, generous estimate. So, yeah, Commodorable was one of the tracks I played on that special. So whenever that comes out, you'll hear that again. That's a really, really good one. All right. So everything you heard before the break, here's how it went down. That was done early in the morning, between the hours of 5 and 6. When it hits 6, it's time to go. So, now it's late in the afternoon. Let's have some fun. I got a few more things to cover, and then we'll do the fail bag. I'm taking a look at my notes here, and what did we cover? We covered AliExpress, which is pretty cool. I really had to buy something off that before I can comment any further. It's hard to talk about a store front that I haven't purchased anything from. I mean, I haven't done any business with them. Use them at your own risk. Sendu says they're really cool, so I'm willing to give it a shot. But there's that. Talked about the Linux Game Jam. I haven't played any of the games from it. That I think is a video I'm gonna do. Just like let the screen recorder go. Head over to the Jam space, play a couple games, and hopefully I can chop up a video out of it. What else is in here? I had planned to read this article about building your own media center because I'm working on a computer that's going to be primarily hooked to a TV and operated with a remote control. So I thought there might be something there. But the thing about that is, like, first of all, media center. When you talk about I'm building a media center, I think that's a super broad term. All right. So to say how to build your own media center, you could build. All right. Let me put it this way. I read an article a good while ago. I think I might have even read this on the air. Different things you can do with your old abandoned computer. And one of them was build a media center. Well, it's like a media center. It's just, it plays music, it plays movies, whatever. It's a media center. So this article better be describing how to download a copy of Winamp and an MP3 ripper. And there you go. Media center. Media center. I don't know. For some reason, when I first looked at it, I thought there might be something here. But now I'm looking at it, and I'm thinking it's a waste of space. The big supply of lulls for me over the last couple days has been Mass Effect Andromeda. Man. Give me a second here. I can't think of a more sobering reminder that the greatness that was BioWare is dead and buried. Okay? People loved Baldur's Gate. I remember because when it came out, it was all over the place, and I didn't really see the interest myself. But people loved it. I mean, I got into it later on in life, but at that time I didn't. And then around the time, like maybe second year of making this podcast, I may have the timeline wrong, but that's when Mass Effect like 1 and 2 were the big thing, and 3 hadn't come out yet. And I just remember that being what everybody talked about. Like, Go Nintendo, right? There's like strictly the Nintendo podcast. They go around the table and more than one person would be like, yeah, I played Mass Effect all week. And they really, like there was so much anger when Mass Effect 3 came out about the ending. There was so much anger that it's like, this game had to be good. They had to make this one a crowd pleaser. There was no other option. So I just can't believe that they dropped the ball this hard. I mean, this is really an embarrassment, what I'm seeing about this Andromeda game. Let's be fair, I haven't played it yet. But there is not a single thing about this game that makes me want to play it. Not a single solitary thing. So good job, BioWare. Well done. Good for you. I think the most embarrassing thing is when you see screenshots of the characters' faces from 2007 right next to 2017. And it's like it's been 10 years and they've gone downhill. What an embarrassment that is. What a shameful experience. When it comes to when I think about this game, it's like it's so important for us to point and laugh at this game. It's so important because like that to make a game that looks this poor with this poor animations. Again, I haven't played it. All I've seen is the memes and the trailers. I feel like there should be consequences. I really do. Especially since, you know, the games are not cheap, right? This is a AAA game, and I would imagine they want $60 for it. All right, let's look it up. I'm gonna head over to Amazon, see if they have a listing for it. I don't know why they would, right? Yeah, they would, right? I'm trying to decide if this would even be sold in a physical media. Yeah, there it is, Mass Effect Andromeda. Of course, PS4, right? Get it by tomorrow. $59.88 on Prime. There it is for the Xbox One. Oh, on the Xbox One, it's discounted already. $53.30. Oh, yeah. Down from $70. What happened? How could you let this happen, games industry? I mean, I talk about how much people liked Mass Effect 2, but one thing I didn't talk about was how when Mass Effect 2 had that thing where it was like they were trying to stomp out used games at the time, so they put that code in that you only got if you bought it new, and it unlocked certain parts of the ship. And so, I believe if you get it now, if you go back and get that game now, like the price of that particular DLC, which is like $20 if you got it used, has not gone down a single cent. I bought Mass Effect 2 on Steam. I've played it so little. I don't even know if I have that or not. So yeah, what happened? BioWare with me was already in trouble because of that expansion pack that they put out. They put out that expansion pack for what was it now? Yeah, the original Baldur's Gate. That was DLC, and it was like making like taking a break from the game to make all sorts of political statements in the middle of the game. No thanks. No thanks, BioWare. I'm gonna go look up meme games that were made with Game Maker. I think that's more worth my time. I just got myself all worked up and angry now. What else is here? I'm gonna go play games in the Linux Game Jam. I'm gonna find something there that I'm more interested in than Mass Effect Andromeda. What a sobering reminder of how terrible AAA games have become. If you've ever wondered why, I mean, I've been ribbed in the past for being into indies and being into freeware and stuff. Mass Effect Andromeda is a shining example of why. What contempt they must have for us to build a game like that. Because if you look at how silly the faces look, there's no way that's an accident. I'm sorry, $40 million, and that's what it looks like. There's no way it's made. Oh, well, you know, we're trying to make it the best we could. We just didn't have the skills. All right, time to move on with my life. I've talked about that game for like 10 minutes, and that's all of my lifespan on Earth that I'm going to devote to that game. From now on, it does not exist in this world. So I've been toying with an idea of a new monthly feature since we're weekly now. I'm going to try and vary the episodes a little bit. So just real quick little blurbs. There is a site that I enjoy very much, right? And I've talked about it on the air many times. It's the site you go to for alternate Steam icons, right? So in Steam, when you do the library icon where you see the pictures and whatnot, every game is assigned like a banner image, and you might not like the banner image that's there. Certain ones don't have one, or like For example, Majesty. Majesty comes with 2 copies. There's an HD and a non-HD, and one of them is just a big gray like block. Okay, so here's a site you can go to and look up the game that you like. Get yourself a banner image. It's also good if you're adding non-Steam games. Then you can put banner images on them. So I thought it might be fun every month to just pick one out and just make it the Steam banner image of the month. It might be a good way to start some riffing on some games. So this month I'm taking a look at one made for 13, which I believe is a Belgian game, and it's not available on Steam, and it's no longer available on GOG. This was like a comic book based first-person shooter that came out in the early 2000s. Excuse me. I got a hold of a copy on GOG, luckily, while it was still around, and then it got taken down, presumably for license issues, because that's not always where these games go when they disappear into the ether. It's just like licensing issues just opens up and swallows it whole. So here it is, 13. I'll leave a link in the description. You guys drop down, take a look. If you happen to have 13 in your GOG collection and you're a Steam user, you can use this banner to add it to your collection. It's a good game. It's one of the reasons why I think even as a hardcore Steam guy, it's still worth it to manage a GOG collection, because there's just certain games you can't get anywhere else. All right, and for a short time, 13 was one of them. Okay, so how are we doing? We are what? We're 53 minutes in. The fail bag is incredibly small this week, which is what tends to happen with this show. Fail bag comes out, or excuse me, TCR comes out every week. People fall behind. Fail bag gets smaller and smaller every week. So then once it disappears, then I'll probably have like a special or something. That's when like the chiptune special comes out, and that's the episode or some garbage like that. Although that kind of feels like a cop-out. So I don't know. I'll have to find some other way to handle this situation. Be that as it may. So that is the... Yeah, okay, we'll go with that. That's the Steam custom library icon of the week/month, right? I also have marked in my notes what I've been playing, though I don't know how accurate this is. I actually just got finished playing Out of the Park Baseball 18, which dropped today, and I was nice enough, or I was a pretty awesome guy to get this game. No, the developers were nice enough to grant me a review copy, which is pretty sweet. So I played it for about an hour and a half. This is not the review that I'm making, but just for some quick comments on the game for the first hour and a half. They did a good job with the 3D mode. 3D mode in that game has always been somewhat derpy. They made it a little better. They're making it a little better each time, but this time, this time I think it's like a really viable option for use. You can see fairly accurate representations of action happening, as opposed to just icons moving around like in the 2D mode. So there's that. They've also added a historical exhibition mode, which I've been toying around with. I don't know if that was in the last one or not, but I spent the most time with Out of the Park Baseball 14, so solid 4 years ago. And it was definitely not in that game. I don't think it was in... I loaded up 17 briefly to do the port over. Yeah, it's not in that either. So yeah, I guess that's new, which is pretty cool. One thing that I would like to see them add is to add support for custom games in the exhibition mode. See, when I play that game, I run a custom league, which means all the teams are made up and all the players are generated, and it really has no basis in reality whatsoever. Last game I played was the River City Ransoms versus the Bay City Rollers. That was the game. Bay City Rollers were up. They were up 2-0 until about the 7th inning, and then they had a defensive meltdown. The Ransoms picked up the game by winning 4 points in a single inning. Awesome. So they won 4-2. It was actually really fun. I had a good time. So it maintains that it's still a fun game. It's just as fun as it always was. It's got a few more bits and bobbles historically. I think they added the Negro League to the historical statistics, which wasn't there before. They expand the historic data a little bit with each volume. I think the last one added historical player data for minor league teams, so all that carries over as well. One problem I have with it is they still will not let you port over games from more than one game ago. Again, I spent the most time with Out of the Park Baseball in 14, and I didn't buy. So you can only port over from the previous game, which means I would have to own all of the games between 14 and 18 to port it over, and I missed one. I didn't get 16, which would be fine, except they remove every game from the store, the Steam store, when the new one comes out. Which reminds me, I checked this morning, and Out of the Park Baseball 17 was still for sale. Don't know how much longer that's going to be, fellas. Out of the Park. Yeah, it's still there now. Out of the Park Baseball 17. It's $20. It's still for sale. It's going to be gone within a week, I would imagine. So that's Out of the Park Baseball 18. Again, probably all the airtime I'm gonna spend devoted to that, because I have a feeling that that's just the game that me and Kaiser like, and I don't think any of the rest of the listeners do. But it's cool. It's a managerial game. I dig it. I dig it a lot. It has a special kind of what's the word? It's a really unique thing that makes it attractive that I enjoy, and it's okay if nobody else does. Because or nobody else within this group of listeners does, because it's a good game. Don't look at me like that. It's good. Go buy it. All right. That and did a bit more with MS-DOS. Got a new video that went up that appears to be doing pretty well. That's DOS related. Is that everything? Oh, by the way, last week I forgot to post TCR on the next round. Make sure you check out thenextround.com. To watch TCR this week. Okay, I covered all my bases. Let's go to the fail bag, guys. Clicking in. Okay, so we got 2 on the directly on YouTube. One that was posted for last week's episode after it aired, or after it was already recorded. This one was already recorded, etc. So basically a repost from Alex Swingle, and then I got one in my traditional email. Alright, so Alex Swingle, who always writes nothing but kind things, writes for TCR 176. Number 1, I lulled at the fact 11 out of the 11 top open source games were clones. Clones that would be crapped on as ripoffs. Sorry, I had to censor that a little bit. Keeping it curse free on the YouTube's channel. Platform, and they get a free pass, and yet again Warzone 2100 doesn't get a mention. Those bastards. Thanks for telling us about the list anyway. And then he puts in the repost from 175. Alright, so here's the thing. Let me explain the gaming climate for Linux. Gaming for Linux is basically like, at this point in time, it's, yes, we can finally kind of do it, and it's amazing. It's amazing! Which is why a big list of ripoffs constituted an article. I think there's 2 exceptions to that list, to your comment about them being ripoffs that would be crapped on. Number 1, the Worms ripoff, because the actual Worms company, Team 17, is getting progressively worse and worse with every single release. So I think there's actually, that's one I would get on Windows. I think the second example, and I've got it written here, is Battle for Westnoth, which is the hexagonal-based fantasy game. That's probably the closest in the whole bunch to something that's unique. I actually have that marked in my notes to download and play. Will I actually do that? Maybe not, but it looks the most like something unique. So, oh, and by the way, when I say hexagonal strategy fantasy game, you're probably thinking like Heroes of Might and Magic, right? No. Think more Panzer General. I know I've said that before, but just to be clear. All right. So that's that. I've also, what else have I been playing? I've been playing a little Click Team Fusion. Hopefully I can get a good something playable on Click Team Fusion. I've been in there a few times now. Trying to figure things out. Hopefully I can make some meme games. I'm taking up the challenge to see if I can make a game that looks that's more interesting to play than Mass Effect Andromeda. Let's see if one brand new Click Team Fusion user can make something that's more desirable to play. And I also received a game from Mr. Swingle called Tis 100, which is basically a game where you hack a 1980s computer. And there's very little prompts actually on the screen. They have a 14-page monitor that you print out, and you use that to solve the mystery of the Tis 100. So very creative. It's a very creative game. It's better or worse. Never seen anything like that before. And I want to see if there's a way I can get Europa Universalis to 100 hours. That's my last bullet point. I like having games that I've reached 100 hours in, and that's when I stopped at like 90. So that's that. Now let's go to his repost. This is for TCR 175, so we're talking 2 episodes ago now. At minute 19, when did Steam groups ever mean anything? I ask almost rhetorically, since maybe 1 or 2 of the 15 groups I'm a part of have practical use, while the rest of them spam me with notification of bundles I already know. It could just be Bitterman Swingle rearing his tired head once again, questioning the meaning of is. I'd like to know when a Steam group has directly helped you by utilizing the group. I'm guessing dead multiplayer games, and that is truly for useful groups. That is truly it for useful groups. Jeez, I want to make the clarification that he wrote that perfectly normally. I'm just getting a D- and reading it out loud. We'll get back to this after we finish the email. Number 2, at minute 10, the scam known as Steam Greenlight is getting more scammy, and based on the article I sent you, Valve is extremely vague as per usual on what they plan on doing, but threw out a bunch of hypotheticals to test the waters to see how people would react. Either way, keep on trying to automate a process that shouldn't be treated in such a manner, and don't devote a few people with a good sense of judgment to evaluate these games. Besides pocket money, they could use some of the thousands of dollars per hour of submitted games and hire someone to vet the games. But I'm guessing that's too hard to pull off when drowning in trading card money. Yes, I'm inferring they purposefully caused the current Greenlight system to exist so they can piggyback off the 5% siphon they get with each trading card sold. It's insane how much those pieces of trash make more money off their card sales than actual sales. Number 3, at minute 24, I know Nintendo fans are stupid, but it takes the cake in terms of tardation. Scratch and sniff the failure, fellas. I'm surprised we haven't heard weebs eating out of Maya Jetmoto's trash can or something. Damn. That comment. Oh boy. Alright, so groups. The only useful group that I have right now is the one for G Cinema. G Cinema is a Steam. It's a game mode in Gary's mod, where you basically do the cinema mode, where everybody goes into a room and they play a YouTube video or something, and then it shows up on a big theater screen. Everybody who's playing in multiplayer can see the same thing. It's a good way to just chill out, goof around, and watch YouTube videos. A lot of the big name YouTubers I only watch because somebody posted something in a G Cinema and I enjoyed it. That's how I got started watching Markiplier. Somebody played a Markiplier video, specifically the one where he played that Sonic EXE creepypasta game. Somebody played that in G Cinema, and I was like, yeah, it was okay. Same with Filthy Frank. I didn't know who that was until I saw him in G Cinema. So there is a Steam group by the people who run it, and then every night at a certain time, they have a scheduled movie that goes on, just like appointment television. And then a notification pops up that says, okay guys, we're going to go watch, Goodfellas starts at 7, and it's like 5:30 right now, so come to the movie. I enjoy those notifications. I don't think I've even once attended one, but I enjoy them enough so that I reinstalled Gary's mod just so that I could go to one of those at some point. But yeah, so that's one. I've been involved with groups that were useful for short periods of time. I was involved with Strategy Games International, where I was in charge of notifying people about deals. If I saw a deal on a strategy game, I posted a notification about it. And when I say strategy game, I mean strategy game in the broad sense. So this was something I was doing quite a lot. I was scouring Gamersgate, for their Gamersgate has a lot of like DRM-free copies of little played strategy games that go on sale quite a lot. So those, as well as GOG.com, as well as Steam. I mean, if you think about it, there is always going to be a strategy game that's on sale. So I was posting a lot. So much so that it was extremely, extremely short-lived, and this happened while I was in college, so I didn't have time. There was no time. But being a strategy gamer, I like to think that Steam group was useful for somebody, because at that time there was that, and there was also a lot of events for Supreme Commander, the expansion pack for Supreme Commander. I can't think of what it's called off the top of my head. So they had a lot of activity at the time. Greenlight. All right, Swingle, let's talk Greenlight for a second. Bear with me. I want to look up a pivotal article about Greenlight when it was just in its infancy by a very prolific and brilliant writer. Okay, this is called Why Steam Greenlight is a Bad Thing. It was written by me on March 21st, 2013. Okay? And if you go back and read the comments, I guess it's really only from Jerry Terrifying. I said it was bad. It was bad. It was bad. All right? The fact that we have capitalism and we can create products and sell them by default puts us against each other, in competition, at least a little bit. Greenlight made it even worse because we had to add competition on top of that even to try and get votes. All right. Enough calling myself a genius when I'm clearly not one. I never liked Greenlight from the start. I always thought it was bad. Lo and behold, it turned out to be bad. I think the reasons why I didn't like it at the beginning were probably a little off. Because I'm taking a look at the summarization of this article, and at the bottom it says, too long, didn't read, use Desura more, Greenlight sucks. And Desura is now well, Desura is gone, yes, but in 2013, I would have liked to have seen it used more. I still thought it was a viable option in 2013. But okay, Greenlight sucks, we can all agree. So now let me click back to our messages. Okay, so that's the article from Alex Swingle. We got one from Death Adder who writes, episode 175. Killer Instinct 2013 isn't for the Steam rental store or the Pleb Station 4. It's exclusive for the lunchbox done at the greatest operating system of all time, Windows 10. I might buy Cow Milking Sim 3 Milk Harder when it's cheap just to eat the cartridge. So far, eating Switch games is their biggest selling point. Okay, now we move to episode 176. He says, I haven't enjoyed Howard Stern since Artie Lang left. Howard is an old sellout dinosaur that has clearly never listened to all gen gamers. I don't know what it is, but I never really got into Howard Stern. He kind of seemed a little bit too mean-spirited for me. Maybe that was it, but maybe not. Maybe something else. Howard Stern was never my cup of tea. So yeah, I would agree with you. He needed more all-gen gamers in his life. That's clear. All right, we're running late. I got to finish this up. Let's see. Last email is from Hemrock. ACF, hope all is well. I wanted to get your opinion on the following topics. It looks like Capcom is publishing a bundle of their old NES games dubbed the Disney Afternoon Collection for various platforms, including Steam, for $20. You can see the trailer here. And then another link for more info. Is this a day one buy for you? Blockshot Champion is an action shooting indie game in the style of Atari 2600 that I enjoyed playing at PAX. It looks like something you might enjoy. Here's a quick vid of some gameplay. Here is the quick vid of some gameplay on their website. I Okay, so I'm opening that in a new tab, and we'll get back to the email. Check the website out in a minute. Can you give me some good underrated Sega Genesis / Mega Drive game recommendations? Thanks for the show. Keep rolling retro, Hemrock. Alright, so we got Blockshot Champion open. We're going to get back to that. Let's start with the Disney collection. It's too late for me. They waited too long to do something like this. This should have come out. This should have been out 10 years ago, man. This should have been out 10 years ago in a box on the shelf in the game stores when that was how you bought computer games. It should have been out 5 years ago when Steam was still, had 2 million users at its peak. It's too late now. I've lost all my interest in that sort of thing. I heartily appreciate you making me aware of it. Kaiser posted an article about this on the Next Round. That's how I first found out about it. And I know it's raising some interest. Some of those games I know have had some real nostalgia attached to them. I think for me mostly it's Chip and Dale. Is that in this? Yes, it is. I had a lot of fun with Chip and Dale on the NES. On my Raspberry Pi before it broke, I put Chip and Dale on there, and it actually got some good mileage. Played it with my son, played it with my pal when we went to MagFest. We got some mileage out of that, but I'm good with what I got in that sense, which I know is jaded and calloused, but I don't know. I couldn't manage to get myself riled up enough to pick it up. But I'm glad they're trying now. As far as underrated Sega Genesis games goes, that's a tough one for me because I wasn't a Sega guy growing up. Most people who were into the Segas as youngsters will say, "Oh yeah, I know this game that's really good that nobody knows about." But for me, I got into it late in life. Let's see. Games I think that are underrated. So pretty much anything that's not Sonic the Hedgehog. How about Skitchin? That was always one of my favorite Sega games, right? Good game. I only ever see it talked about in memes. Like a couple of times it's been dug up by various video game channels, but by and large, Skitchin remains probably the most underrated game that I really enjoy. As in a game that's really good that not a lot of people talk about. I mean, there's certainly games that don't get attention, but Virtual Pinball is also a pretty cool game. Bill Budge, who made Pinball Construction Set, for Commodore 64 and MS-DOS, came back again and advised on the creation of that game, so you can actually create pinball tables in that. It's weird. There's things I really, really don't like about it, like the way it's like a gigantic rectangle on its side as opposed to a traditional elongated pinball play area. I think is a big problem. But the fact that you can create a pinball table, I think is really neat. They did it on the Sega Genesis, and as far as I know, no other home console had that, unless you count the Commodore 64, because I can hook it up to a TV or whatever. But so we'll go with those two. Fatal Labyrinth is also really good. Sendu sent me a copy of Fatal Labyrinth many years ago that I never made a video about because I'm terrible. That's like Rogue, the original Rogue for MS-DOS, reproduced for Sega Genesis. So that's another one that not many people discuss. But the reality is, best Sega Genesis games, or my most favorite Sega Genesis games, probably Gunstar Heroes is really cool. Not by myself, but when I have somebody to play with, Gunstar Heroes is awesome. Contra Hardcore is really cool too. I wish I owned a cart of that. That's all I can think of off the top of my head. Alright, so that leaves this Blockshot Champion game. Now I'm looking at this website, never having seen this game before. So I don't know. I don't know how I'm gonna somehow make this interesting to watch or listen to. But okay, so I can see this is a game with some really primitive graphics. We're talking about large singular blocks in representation of active objects on the screen, but it flows like a click and play game. You know, higher frames of animation than say an Atari 2600 game. All right. You know, if I had looked at this just in passing, I probably would have kept going. But it appears to be some sort of like multiplayer shooter. If it's couch multiplayer and I had people who were interested, I would give it a shot. All right, let's give it. Let's see what we got. Pre-alpha gameplay available from March 2017. What is this? When can I like? Okay, it was at PAX. I wish I had known before exhibiting at a major trade show. Yeah, you mentioned that, didn't you? Alright, so if I click on buy now, what does it tell me? Am I coming Q4 2017? I can't buy it. Okay. Looks keen bean. There's a contact form here. I could write out for a review copy, or to be kept in the loop. I mean, if it came out and was decent, I'd certainly report on it. Here's the thing, Hemrock, and I totally get where you're coming from with this game, because at MagFest they have the indie showcase, and there's a lot of games that look like this, and there's very much a grassroots feel to it. So if I were to meet the guy who had this game there, and I were to shake his hand and he were to say, "This is the game I've been building," I would play it, and I'd probably be all about it, because that's, I don't know, that just suddenly it's no longer a random game from a random website. It's a game created by an individual who you can see what their hair looks like. You can see, you know, if they have anything weird on their face. The developer quickly becomes a person, and that makes it easy to sell a game like this, because it makes it stand out. You know, but I'm looking at it. So I wasn't there at PAX. So now I'm looking at it all by its lonesome. I'm seeing a teaser trailer that's got no music in it or anything. There's no. Okay, there's music in it. I'm being a little overly harsh. Beta testers needed, summer 2017. All right, man. All right, beta testers needed. I'm in. Up to 4 players, multiplayer competitive game modes, console and PC compatible, online system ranking. And then there's some stuff at PAX South, San Antonio, Texas. I can see the big orange and white sign. Yeah, okay, I'm game. So what was it like when you saw this game? Did it have like a playable marquee that you could look at? Did you talk to the guy who made it? What was the deal? Tell me more, Hemrock, because right now I'm seeing their sales pitch website, and it looks a lot like a lot of other sales pitch websites. But that could be good. It could be good if they accomplish their goals and make a game that does what it sets out to do. It could still be fun, but we'll see. A lot of these games where a lot of the graphics feel like placeholder graphics. There was a time where I really dug this kind of thing, and I think that time has kind of passed for me. Because, see, you mentioned this looks like Atari 2600 graphics. That's not what it feels like to me. It feels, look, from watching this video, it feels more like, let's see. Yeah, it feels more like Click and Play. Or like I've been looking at Click Team Fusion a lot. That's what it feels like. It feels like a Click Team Fusion game where they never got around to putting in some graphics. And somebody had the bright idea, hey, well, we got all these placeholder graphics, so why don't we just stick with the placeholder graphics? Oh, okay. That's the impression I get. And if you don't know what I'm talking about, do you remember when Halo 2600 came out? That was an Atari game, a real Atari game, by a guy named Ed Fries, that came out and was distributed at a con.
And the ROM for the game is what was available for free and still is. And I believe it's also there online. You can play it. That's a game that feels like an Atari 2600 game. The point I'm trying to make is the Atari 2600 had more to the feel than just you're playing as blocks. There was a sound. There was a very minimalistic atmosphere that was forced because of the hardware. There was a lot of contributing things. It had a very unique combination of limited visuals and primitive sound to make up what felt like an Atari 2600 game. This clearly, like another example would be looking at this trailer again. The people are all blocks, and the platforms are all blocks, but there's a background, primitive as it may be. On one screen, it kind of looks like the Enterprise. If you click even further, I seem to remember. Yeah, it kind of looks like the Enterprise in the background, I guess, or like a manhole or something. I don't know. I can't really tell. But there is a background. Okay. Also, heads-up displays on the Atari 2600 usually consisted of a number, a high score, maybe a couple of lines to represent extra lives. So the extensive heads-up display that's needed for four players in a multiplayer game makes it not look like an Atari 2600 game. I'm not trying to be harsh. I'm not saying it looks bad, per se. I'm just saying there's a difference between a minimalistic indie game or a graphics slim indie game and Atari 2600. Very, very different. But who knows? Who knows? Well, I'll check it out. Shoot. Nobody's recommended me an indie game in a while, so I'll bookmark this page. All right. I'm sure I'm running way late now. Things to do. Yeah, an hour and 23 minutes. Jeez Louise. All right, guys. This is the part of the show where I send a little well-wishing your way. Many thanks to the patrons, Hemrock, James, Retro Kaiser, and Sendu of Light Studios. You four are keeping the show alive. If you'd like to support the show on Patreon, please consider it. You can get the show a couple days early. It's Friday afternoon right now, and I'm just finishing up. As soon as I can get a decent banner put together, I'm going to throw this up for the patrons, so they'll have it a little bit early, and then it'll be up for everybody else on Monday. But whatever the circumstances, I'm glad that you've stuck with me to the end. Thanks a lot for listening. And whatever it is that you do during the day, I hope you're making it a good one. Keep getting up in the morning. Don't give up. Keep at it, because I'm rooting for you. I'll see you guys next week.